Thank you for watching and participating with Stay in Your Lane here by Triple T Transport. Today we have one of my favorite guests, Wendy Workman, SK Foods. Love Wendy's perspective. Get ready because it's going to be strong but genuine and heartfelt. Wendy, how are you today?
I'm well, John. How are you?
I'm good. The subject I'd like to talk about today and kind of take your temperature on is if you feel that our government has overstepped into the trucking industry. Now, I know that's a broad statement, so I kind of want to let you share what that means to you.
Well, based off of some of our prior conversations, I think the first one we talked around was fuel. And I do not feel that government drives a lot of the fuel prices. Um, there are decisions that the government may take towards or go away from. But at the end of the day, we are a capitalistic market. The oil industry is having some of its most profitable years ever. They're not using all of their drilling leases as they should. And we have an offset of demand from where we had a really slow year last year. From people driving. I didn't come into the office every day to to a very heavy, just a whiplash effect where now everybody wants everything and um, you know, goods are being sold left and right. So, as a supply chain person, I believe that there's a cause and effect and a whiplash effect of that does drive the indices up from a supply demand standpoint. Now, I'll be the first to say I'm not, versed in economics 101 on the OPEC relationships, but um, to me, there's a lot of common sense there, and to me, um, as someone who's been in different companies and have done different types of shipping, I will tell you that they're not always the most efficient practices, and they drive up demand by having poor decisions. And while the government has some influence on these decisions of what is happening with the gas prices, to me, a lot of it is more driven by just poor decisions by the industry and society. And when I say not necessarily trucking industry, but shippers. I mean, I've had customers have me ship one pallet from Ohio to California. One pallet. It's not even worth the freight. Um, just so that they can say that they had a customer fill rate of whatever number it is. So there's a cost decision to some of those decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a snowball effect to those choices. And when you have them on a massive scale, like the US economy does, I think that drives some of what we're seeing in the market. Is that all of it? Absolutely not. But um, I think it's a bigger chunk than probably everybody doesn't realize.
So you think waste and inefficiency are major contributors also?
From a shipping standpoint, I do. Yes. There's a lot of
Okay.
dead space on the trucks. There's a lot of, I never in a million years would have thought that it would be a full truckload would be considered 7 pallets when you can fit 30 on a truck. But there are some customers that feel that way because it's cheaper for them to run it full truckload rather than to run it LTL. So right there, we've made a cost decision because it's cheaper, not because it's efficient. So now you're instead of taking up, you're using multiple trucks to get this, you know, decision made. Whereas if we could fill up that truck, we could get more product over there instead of having several trucks send the same amount of product to over there. I see that happen a lot because of the way the cost structure of the industry works. That's something I can't speak to. I am the result of that. I see the result of that decision for how those cost structures work. So I personally would rather have less trucks in my dock than more trucks in my dock because, again, that's labor that I have to source it to. And when I'm working with different carriers or different customers, I am pushing those decisions to say, it is more cost effective for us to load 2 or 3 POs on this truck rather than just one because of a metric you're trying to meet, right? We're a society driven by metrics, right? And some of those decisions I feel are exacerbating the current situation, in my opinion.
So I'm going to say this because I understand where you're looking at it from.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go to a different side, and I'm going to tell you, I think those scenarios of the 1 or the 5 or the 7 skids always have been happening over the years, time to time.
Mm-hmm.
I am seeing shippers cram trucks to the doors, getting as much on as they can because of the cost of freight.
But don't
So,
you think that's the right thing to do?
well, I think it only makes sense if you're paying for the whole truck,
Yeah,
load it up. I
load
mean,
it to the gills,
right.
right?
Just
So
try to not shut the door with the forklift. You maybe stop
poke
there.
a hole in the door.
That's
Yeah, I
what
mean,
we'll leave that for the LTL companies to do that.
I
Um,
just, I do think that it forces me as a shipper to say, what can I be better at here? In, whether you're DOT, FDA, USDA, they're all a pain in the ass, right? But they all make us better. And
oh
that is
yeah.
where I feel my relationship with these government bodies I feel differently about it because you're a pain, but you will make me better. And because of the situation with fuel, because of the environment that we're in, it is making me go, how can I do this differently? How can I do it better? How can I be more efficient?
So
And there's nothing lost in that.
I think you look at it, I would say, the right way and holding yourself accountable first. What am I doing to contribute,
Oh
and
yeah,
what could I do to improve it? I think
right.
in no matter what the situation is, if that's how you look at it from the beginning, then I think you're going to go about it from a good perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what would you say if I told you there are less refineries in the United States than there were 5 years ago?
Well, I was a child living in Galveston, Texas, when Hurricane Alicia came through, and there was a lot of sludge that came up through the Gulf of Mexico through that, and I seen what that did to our beaches and what it did to my family. So I don't have any love for refineries, John. I got to be honest with you. I know they're necessary evil. I know that they're part of the supply chain and how we have to effectively deliver things. But again, I just don't feel like they're watched enough. There are a lot of private refineries that frankly just leak a lot of crap into our environment. And I would like to see them held more accountable personally, but there are a lot of loopholes with that, and there are a lot of lobbying movements with that. And I understand that, but is that for the industry, like the trucking industry, to shoulder? No, it's not. But at the end of the day, you're still going to pass that cost on to me. So at the end of the day, the consumer is going to get that cost.
Oh, we're all going to pay for it.
We're all going to
Now,
pay for it.
if what we're understanding is that the diesel refining is a global supply problem from a refining perspective. I think there's many things. I'm not going to throw. I think you hit one of them, fuel. I would say that policy for our country has probably been where governments hurt us from a fuel cost perspective.
Mm.
But, when I asked the question overstepping into the trucking industry, there's many people and reports that are out that state that since the ELD mandate, okay, accidents have actually risen on tractor
I
trailers.
actually looked at that data up because I thought you might bring that up, and they haven't risen, but they have stayed flat. So I don't know that there's an argument that says it's reduced it.
Right, and I think that was what we were presented with. This will make our roads safer, less
Mm-hmm.
accidents, and I'm not seeing that has happened.
I would agree
Um,
with that.
and depending on which way the data is presented, can tell us whether it hasn't gone up, or hasn't improved, or has improved. But I don't know that there was necessarily a value, and I do know that when the ELD mandate came into effect, it made every trucking company 21 to 24% less efficient. That hurts capacity and drives freight rates up. So if you worked 75% of a work week, you'd be not able to do a full week's work if you only got paid for 75% of your pay, right? So we saw an uptick in trucking cost when that happened, because it was the paper line of demarcation for, is it about rate per mile or is it about time on the truck? And that became more about time on the truck because of the LD mandate.
Yeah.
Once that was in place. So I think that added cost to our industry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see an improvement from CSA 2010's ELD mandate. I don't see an improvement from a driver safety perspective or road vehicle safety perspective, which I think we both agree on that, right?
Yeah, I'm not seeing that there's statistically anything that says that has reduced anything.
I would say it also made an impact on how many people chose to get out of the trucking industry when the LD mandate happened. A lot of people said, forget it, I'm done trucking, right?
Well, I mean, and so let's parking lot that and say, is there another way to satisfy both sides of it? So as a shipper, I loved it when you could get across the country in 3 days. I loved it. Those were the good old days, right? Now it takes
Right.
4. But as a mother who has a teenager on the road, I do worry about the carriers. Not, and I'm not lumping them all into one. I do drive late at night. I was coming back from Cedar Point last night, and you do see them swerving. You do see them, going over and just kind of being in whatever lane they want to be in at the time. And as a mom, I do worry that, is he too tired to be behind the wheel? So while I understand the spirit of what the ELD mandate was meant for, I agree that I don't necessarily it's seeing the fruits of that labor. So how do you give the drivers tools? How do you give the industry help to achieve more efficient lanes, but still maintain some safety measures in there, for those that are on the road? Because it does happen. They do get tired. They do push it too hard. And, we've been around long enough. We know the books have been cooked from time to time. So, what other tools are out there?
No.
Yeah, what other tools are out there to help?
3-day California from the Midwest. Yeah. What took you so long? No, I would agree. I think safety is concerned, but I also think that there's some individual things. I mean, I think they're human like everyone else. To me,
yeah,
they're a necessity, an unappreciated necessity in our industry. So no different than you or me. There's days where we can work 15 hours or 18 hours, and you feel good, and you've got the gas in the tank. Before ELDs, if I had a driver that was tired, I'd say, hey, do you want me to send you to the coast, or you want me to give you an easier one, right?
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I heard a resounding, consistent message from my drivers. They like the long loads for one reason. They were able to follow their routine. Regional freight is actually much harder on the driver.
Yeah.
When you're running 500-mile radius, you got to make it 500 miles and be there early in the morning, unload and reload. It's harder to sleep when you're unloading and reloading in the same day. Then at night, you got to cover 500 miles and sneak naps in.
Yeah.
Continue watching on the next episode of the Stay in Your Lane podcast.